The church bells tolled like a death knell, each chime a hammer against my heart. I stood at the altar, my suit too tight, my palms slick with sweat, waiting for James to walk down the aisle. Then the whispers started. His car was gone, his phone off, his suitcase missing from our Napa Valley cottage. I'm Ethan Carter, 28, a graphic designer from San Francisco who thought he'd found forever in James Harper, the charming vintner with a smile that could melt steel. We'd planned our wedding for months, a small affair in Napa's rolling hills, where the vineyards stretched like promises under the California sun. James was everything: kind, driven, with green eyes that held a spark of mischief. We'd met 2 years ago at a wine tasting, his laugh pulling me in like gravity. By the third date, I knew I'd marry him. But now, standing in that church, I was alone, the weight of 80 guests' stares burning into me. The officiant cleared his throat, but no one spoke. My best friend, Mia, slipped to my side, her hand squeezing mine. "Ethan, we'll find him," she whispered, but her voice trembled. James wasn't coming. The realization hit like a punch. My groom had run. Hours later, I sat in the cottage we'd rented, still in my suit, staring at a bottle of his favorite Cabernet. The room smelled of hemp sandalwood and citrus. My phone buzzed endlessly, texts from friends, voicemails of concern, but I couldn't face them. Then the door creaked open, and I froze. A man stepped in, his silhouette achingly familiar, same height, same broad shoulders, same dark hair curling at the nape. For a heartbeat, I thought James had returned. "Ethan," he said, voice low, different. Not James. My eyes adjusted, and I saw the subtle differences: the sharper jaw, the faint scar above his left brow. It was Lucas Harper, James's identical twin, the brother I'd met only once, at a tense family dinner 6 months ago. Lucas lived in Seattle, a corporate lawyer, reserved and cold where James was warm and open. They were mirror images, but their souls couldn't have been more different. "I heard," Lucas said, standing stiffly by the door. "I came as soon as I could." "Why?" My voice cracked. "To see the wreckage." He flinched, then crossed the room, sitting across from me. "I don't know where James is, but my parents, they're downstairs. They want to talk." I laughed. Bitter. "Talk?" My fiancée vanished. "What's there to say?" Lucas's eyes, so like James's, held mine. "They have a plan. You won't like it." Minutes later, I faced the Harpers in the cottage's dim living room. James's mother, Eleanor, sat ramrod straight, her pearls gleaming like armor. His father, Richard, a vineyard magnate, paced, his face red. "Ethan," Eleanor began. Her voice clipped. "This wedding must happen." I blinked, disoriented. James is gone. Richard stopped pacing. "We have a reputation to protect. The Harper name is tied to this valley, to our business. A scandal like this could ruin us." I stared, my grief twisting into anger. "You think I care about your brand right now?" Eleanor leaned forward. "You signed a prenup. You know what's at stake: James's inheritance, your shared assets. If this wedding doesn't proceed, it's all at risk." I opened my mouth to argue, but Lucas cut in. "They want me to step in," he said, his voice flat. "To marry you. Today." The room spun. I gripped the armrest, my heart pounding. "What?" "It's simple," Eleanor said. "Lucas looks like James. No one outside this room needs to know. The guests are waiting. The papers are signed. You say the vows, and we avoid a public disaster." "You're insane," I whispered. "I love James. Not Not Lucas. Lucas's jaw tightened, but he said nothing. Richard stepped closer, his voice low. You think James ran for no reason. He's weak. Ethan. Always has been. Lucas is steady. He'll honor the commitment. I looked at Lucas, searching for a trace of James in his face. But all I saw was a stranger, forced into this as much as I was. And you're okay with this? I asked him. He hesitated, then nodded once. I don't have a choice. Family comes first. The weight of their words crushed me. I thought of James, out there somewhere, leaving me to this nightmare. I thought of our plans, the house we'd buy, the trips we'd take. And now, this. Marrying his twin to save face. It was madness. But as Eleanor's eyes bored into me, I felt the trap closing. The prenup tied my future to the Harper's empire. If I walked away, I'd lose everything, our savings, our dreams. I need air, I said, stumbling outside. The vineyard stretched before me, serene and mocking. Lucas followed, silent, his presence both familiar and alien. I didn't sign up for this, I said, my voice breaking. Neither did I, he replied, softer now. But James left us both. Ethan, maybe we can figure this out together. I looked at him, his face so like James's it hurt. Could I do this? Say vows to a man I barely knew, all to preserve a life that no longer existed. The sun dipped below the hills, casting long shadows. I had hours to decide, but the choice already felt made. The vineyard air was cool against my skin, but it did nothing to calm the storm inside me. Lucas stood a few feet away, his hands in his pockets, watching me with an intensity that felt both foreign and familiar. I wanted to scream, to run, to find James and demand answers. But the weight of the Harper's expectations anchored me to this moment. I can't marry you, I said finally, my voice hoarse. I don't even know you. Lucas's expression didn't change. You think I want this? I have a life in Seattle. Ethan. A job. A routine. But my parents, he stopped, exhaling sharply. They don't ask. They demand. I turned away, staring at the rows of vines stretching into the dusk. Why didn't you say no? He laughed. A dry, humorless sound. You don't say no to Eleanor Harper. Not if you're a Harper. I thought of James, his easy defiance, the way he'd roll his eyes at his mother's lectures. Where was that James now? I pulled out my phone, checking for the 100th time. No messages. No calls. Just silence. Ethan, Lucas said, stepping closer. I know this is insane, but if we don't do this, they'll make your life hell. The prenup. The business they'll bury you in legal battles. I've seen them do it before. I met his gaze, searching for a lie. But his eyes, so like James's, held only grim certainty. And you? I asked. What do you get out of this? He looked away, his jaw tight. I keep the family together. That's enough. It wasn't enough for me. I wanted love, not obligation. But as the minutes ticked by, the reality sank in. I was trapped. The guests were still at the church, the caterers waiting, the photographer snapping candids of a wedding that wasn't happening. Or was it? We returned to the cottage, where Eleanor and Richard waited like generals planning a war. Have you decided? Eleanor asked, her voice cold. I swallowed hard. I'll do it. But this isn't a marriage. It's a contract. Lucas nodded, his face unreadable. Agreed. The church was a blur. I walked down the aisle again, this time with Lucas at my side. The guests murmured, some smiling, others confused. But no one seemed to notice the switch. To them, Lucas was James' same face, same suit, same everything. Except he wasn't. His hand in mine was steady but cold. Nothing like James's warmth. The vows felt like ash in my mouth. Ethan. Take you. Lucas. Each word was a betrayal. Not just of James, but of myself. After the ceremony, we posed for photos. My smile a mask. Mia pulled me aside, her eyes wide. Ethan, what the hell is going on? Where's James? I don't know, I whispered. He's gone. This is Lucas. Her jaw dropped. But before she could speak, Eleanor swept in, all smiles, ushering us to the reception. The night was a haze of toasts and clinking glasses. Lucas playing the part of the devoted groom. He was good at it. His arm around my waist. His polite laughter. It all felt rehearsed, like he'd studied James's every move. Later, alone in the bridal suite, I collapsed onto the bed, still in my suit. Lucas stood by the window, loosening his tie. You did well, he said, not looking at me. Don't. I snapped. Don't act like this is normal. He turned, his expression softening. I'm not your enemy, Ethan. I'm as stuck as you are. I wanted to hate him, but his voice held a quiet pain that mirrored my own. Why did he run? I asked, my voice breaking. Did he tell you anything? Lucas hesitated, then shook his head. James doesn't confide in me. Never has. We're twins, but we're not close. I stared at him, the man I'd just married, a stranger wearing my lover's face. Then why are you doing this? Really? He crossed the room, sitting on the edge of the bed. Because I know what it's like to lose everything. I won't let that happen to you. His words hung between us, heavy with unspoken history. I wanted to ask more, but exhaustion pulled me under. I closed my eyes, dreaming of James, his laugh echoing in the vineyards, slipping further away with every breath. Morning light streamed through the suite's curtains, painting Lucas's face in soft golds. He was already awake, sitting in an armchair, a coffee mug in hand. For a moment, I forgot everything James. The wedding. The lion saw only a man who looked like my future. Then reality crashed in. We need to talk, I said, sitting up. My voice was rough, my head pounding from too little sleep and too much wine. Lucas nodded, setting his mug down. About what happens next. About everything. I stood, pacing the room. I can't live like this, pretending you're James. I need to find him. Lucas's eyes darkened. You think I don't want to know where he is? He's my brother, Ethan. But he's done this before, disappeared when things get hard. I stopped, my heart lurching. Before. He sighed, running a hand through his hair. When we were 19, he took off for 3 months. No note. No calls. Showed up in Portland like nothing happened. It's who he is. The words cut deeper than I expected. I thought I knew James. Every scar. Every dream. But this was a stranger's story. Why didn't he tell me? Lucas shrugged. He doesn't like looking weak. I sank onto the bed, my anger giving way to grief. Lucas watched me, his expression unreadable. What now? I asked. We're married. What does that even mean? He leaned forward, elbows on his knees. We make it work. For now. We keep up appearances, public events, family dinners. Privately, we figure out what you want. What I want. I laughed bitterly. I wanted James. Not this. I know. His voice was quiet, almost gentle. But you've got me, and I'm not going anywhere. The sincerity in his tone disarmed me. I looked at him, really looked, and saw the strain in his eyes, the weight of a role he hadn't chosen. For the first time, I wondered what this was costing him. We spent the day in Napa, playing the happy couple for the Harpers' sake. Eleanor had planned a brunch with investors, and we smiled through it, Lucas's hand resting lightly on my back. Every touch was a reminder of James, but also of Lucas's difference, his restraint, his quiet strength. I hated how natural it felt. That afternoon, I slipped away to the cottage, desperate for a moment alone. I found a note tucked under a wine bottle. James's handwriting scrawled across it, "Ethan, I'm sorry. I couldn't do it. I'll explain when I can. Jay." My hands shook as I read it, hope and rage warring inside me. He was alive. He was out there. But he'd left me to this. I called Mia, my voice trembling as I told her about the note. "What do I do?" I asked. "Find him," she said firmly. "You deserve answers." But finding James meant defying the Harpers, risking everything. I looked out at the vineyard, the rows of vines stretching endlessly. Lucas appeared at the door, his face softening when he saw the note in my hand. "You found something," he said, not a question. I handed it to him, watching his expression shift anger, then something deeper, like hurt. "He always does this," Lucas muttered. "Leaves someone else to clean up his mess." "Help me find him," I said, impulsive but certain. "Please." Lucas met my gaze, his eyes searching mine. "If we do this, it's you and me. No one else can know." I nodded, a strange relief washing over me. For the first time, Lucas felt like an ally, not a replacement. We were bound by this lie. But maybe, just maybe, we could unravel it together. Lucas and I drove through Napa's winding roads, the note from James burning a hole in my pocket. The vineyards blurred past, their beauty mocking the chaos in my heart. We'd agreed to keep this from Eleanor and Richard, who were already planning our honeymoon to maintain the facade. "Where do we start?" I asked, glancing at Lucas. His hands gripped the steering wheel, his knuckles white. "James loves patterns," he said. When he ran before, he went to places that felt safe old haunts, quiet towns. He mentioned a cabin once, near Mendocino. It's a start. Mendocino was a 4-hour drive, a coastal town where James and I had spent a weekend last summer, tangled in each other's arms by the ocean. The memory stung, but it was a lead. "Why didn't you tell me about the cabin sooner?" I asked. Lucas's jaw tightened. I didn't think he'd go back. Not after everything. I wanted to press him, to dig into the distance between the twins. But his tone warned me off. Instead, I focused on the road, the silence between us heavy but not hostile. Lucas was risking as much as I was, defying his family for a brother who'd abandoned us both. We reached Mendocino by dusk, the ocean a gray expanse under a fading sky. The cabin was tucked in a grove of redwoods, its windows dark. My heart sank as we approached. No car, no lights, no sign of James. Lucas picked the lock with a practiced ease that surprised me, and we stepped inside. The air was stale, the furniture untouched, but a faint scent of sandalwood lingered. James's cologne. "He was here," I said, my voice trembling. Lucas nodded, scanning the room. "Not long ago." He found a crumpled receipt on the counter, coffee from a local shop, dated 2 days ago. My pulse raced. James was close, maybe hours away. We searched the cabin, finding traces of Hema jacket I'd bought him, a half-empty wine bottle. Each discovery was a knife to the heart, proof he'd been here, living without me. Lucas watched me closely, his expression unreadable. "You okay?" he asked finally. "No," I admitted. "But I need to do this." He nodded, something like respect in his eyes. "Then we keep looking." We drove to the coffee shop the next morning, showing James's photo to the barista. She recognized him, said he'd been in daily. Always alone, always quiet. He mentioned heading to Arcata. She said something about a friend there. Arcata was another 2 hours north. Lucas and I exchanged a look, a silent agreement to keep going. The drive was tense, the weight of our fake marriage pressing down. I caught myself watching him, his steady hands, his quiet focus. He wasn't James, but he was here, and that meant something. In Arcata, we found a friend, a guy named Tom, an old college buddy of James's. He was cagey, his eyes darting when we asked about James. "Haven't seen him," Tom said, but his voice was too quick, his hands fidgeting. Lucas leaned in, his lawyer's edge sharp. "Don't lie to us, Tom. We know he's been here." Tom cracked, admitting James had stayed with him but left that morning. He didn't say where. Tom said, just that he needed space. Space. The word echoed in my head. A fresh wound. I stepped outside, the coastal air sharp against my skin. Lucas followed, his presence steady. "We're close," he said. "He can't keep running." But I wasn't so sure. James was a ghost, slipping through our fingers. And with every mile, I felt the pull of Lucas's quiet strength, a dangerous comfort I couldn't afford to lean into. The trail went cold in Arcata. Tom's vague answers left us with nothing but a name, Clara, a friend James had mentioned in passing. Lucas remembered her as an artist in San Francisco, someone James had stayed close with after college. It was a long shot, but it was all we had. We drove back south, the silence between us heavier now. I stared out the window, the Pacific Coast Highway a blur of cliffs and waves. My mind churned with questions. Why had James run? Was it me? The pressure of the wedding? Or something deeper? Something he'd never shared? "You're quiet," Lucas said, glancing at me. "So are you," I shot back, softer than I meant. "What's your deal, Lucas? Why are you doing this? You don't owe me anything." He kept his eyes on the road, his grip tightening. Maybe I owe myself something, a chance to fix what James broke. I frowned, sensing a story he wasn't telling. What did he break? Lucas's jaw clenched, but he didn't answer. Instead, he turned on the radio, filling the car with static and soft jazz. I let it go, too tired to push. In San Francisco, we found Clara's studio in the Mission District, a cluttered space filled with vibrant paintings. She was in her late 20s, with wild curls and paint-splattered overalls. Her face lit up when she saw Lucas, then faltered when she noticed me. "You're Ethan," she said, her voice cautious. "James talked about you." "Where is he?" I asked, my heart pounding. Clara hesitated, glancing at Lucas. "He was here yesterday." He's struggling. "Ethan." He didn't say much, just that he needed to figure things out. "Figure what out?" My voice rose, frustration spilling over. "We were supposed to get married. He left me at the altar." Clara's eyes softened. "He loves you, but he's scared. Something about his family. The business. He wouldn't tell me more." I turned away, my chest tight. Lucas stepped forward, his voice calm but firm. "Clara, if you know where he went, tell us. Please." She bit her lip, then sighed. "He mentioned a place in Big Sur. A retreat. Some kind of spiritual thing. He said he needed clarity." "Big Sur," Another lead. Another drive. I felt like I was chasing a shadow, each step pulling me further from the life I'd planned. Lucas touched my arm. A brief, grounding gesture. "We'll find him," he said. "I promise." The drive to Big Sur was breathtaking, the coastline rugged and wild. We checked into a small inn, posing as a couple to avoid questions. That night, we sat on the balcony, the ocean roaring below. Lucas opened a bottle of wine, pouring us each a glass. "Why do you care so much?" I asked, the wine loosening my tongue. "You barely know me." He stared at the horizon, his face unreadable. "When I was 22, I lost someone I loved. James. He didn't help. He made it worse. I don't want you to go through that kind of pain." His words hung in the air, raw and unexpected. I wanted to ask more, but the vulnerability in his eyes stopped me. Instead, I sipped my wine, the silence between us shifting, softening. For the first time, I saw Lucas not as James's shadow, but as his own man, carrying his own scars. The next morning, we found the retreat, a cluster of cabins nestled in the redwoods. The organizer recognized James's photo, confirming he'd been there but left hours ago. "He seemed lost," she said. "Kept talking about making things right." I clutched the railing, my hope fraying. Lucas stood beside me, his presence steady. "We're not giving up," he said. "Not yet." But as we left Big Sur, I wondered if I was chasing James or running from the truth that the man I loved might not be coming back. Big Sur's cliffs faded in the rearview mirror, and with them, my certainty. Lucas drove, his focus unwavering, while I wrestled with the pieces of James's disappearance. The retreat organizer's words echoed, making things right. What did that mean? And why couldn't he face me? "We need to talk to your parents," I said suddenly. "They know more than they're saying." Lucas's hands tightened on the wheel. "You sure about that? They're not exactly forthcoming." "They forced this marriage," I said. "They know why James ran. I'm done playing their game." He nodded, a flicker of admiration in his eyes. "Okay. But be ready, they don't play fair." We reached the Harper estate in Napa by evening, a sprawling mansion overlooking the vineyards. Eleanor greeted us with her usual icy composure, Richard nursing a whiskey by the fireplace. "You're back early," Eleanor said, her tone sharp. "The honeymoon's barely begun." "Cut the act," I said, my voice steady despite my nerves. "Where's James?" Richard's glass paused midair. "We told you. Ethan. We don't know." "Bullshit." The word slipped out, raw and unfiltered. Lucas raised an eyebrow but didn't stop me. He left a note. "He's been to Mendocino, Arcata, San Francisco, Big Sur. He's running. And you know why?" Eleanor's eyes narrowed. "Watch your tone. You're part of this family now." "Am I?" I shot back. "Because I married Lucas under duress. I want the truth." Richard sighed, setting his glass down. "James is complicated. He's always been reckless. We thought you'd ground him. Ethan. Clearly, we were wrong." "Enough," Lucas snapped, his voice cutting through the room. "Tell us what you know, or I walk away from the family. For good." The threat hung heavy. Eleanor's composure cracked. Just for a moment. "He's in debt," she said finally. "To some dangerous people. The wedding was supposed to secure a deal to pay them off. He panicked." My stomach dropped. "Debt? What kind?" "Business," Richard said gruffly. "He invested in a failing winery behind our backs. Borrowed from the wrong people. We told him we'd handle it. But he ran. I sank into a chair. The room spinning. James. My James. Caught in something so big he'd fled our life together. Why didn't you tell me? I whispered. You wouldn't have understood. Eleanor said. This family protects its own. Then why force me to marry Lucas? I demanded. To protect the deal. Richard said. The investors needed stability. A wedding. Lucas stepped up. I looked at Lucas. His face pale, but resolute. He'd known. At least part of it. And still played along. Betrayal stung. But so did gratitude. It shielded me from this truth. Even if it hurt. Where is he now? Lucas asked. His voice low. We don't know. Eleanor said. But we're looking. Discreetly. I stood. My anger reigniting. Discreetly. I'm his fiancé, his husband. Technically. I deserve to know. Richard met my gaze. His eyes hard. You're Lucas's husband now. Act like it. The words were a slap. I stormed out. The vineyard air cool against my burning skin. Lucas followed. His steps quiet. I didn't know about the debt. He said. Not until now. I turned. My voice shaking. You should have told me what you suspected. I wanted to protect you. He said. His eyes searching mine. I still do. Stop. I said. My voice breaking. I can't do this with you. But as I walked away, his presence lingered. A tether I couldn't break. James was out there, running from a debt I didn't understand. And Lucas was here, holding the pieces together. I hated how much I needed him. The Harper estate loomed behind us, its lights casting long shadows across the vineyard. I stood by the car, my mind racing with Eleanor's revelation. James, in debt to dangerous people, had run to protect himself or maybe me. But why hadn't he trusted me enough to stay? We need to find those lenders, I said, turning to Lucas. If James is running from them, they might know where he is. Lucas nodded, his face grim. It's risky. If they're as bad as my parents say, we're walking into trouble. I don't care, I said. I need answers. He studied me, then sighed. Okay. But we do this my way, careful. Quiet. I know people who can dig into this. Back in San Francisco, Lucas made calls, tapping into his lawyer network. By morning, he had a name, Victor Malone, a loan shark operating out of Oakland. My stomach churned at the thought of James tangled with someone like that. We drove to a seedy bar Malone was known to frequent. The kind of place where the air smelled of stale beer and secrets. Inside, Lucas took the lead, his calm authority disarming the bartender. We're looking for Victor, he said, sliding a 50 across the counter. The bartender pointed to a booth in the back, where a man in his 50s sat, his suit sharp but his eyes sharper. Victor Malone. We approached, my heart pounding. Lucas introduced us as James's brother and friend, keeping my identity vague. James Harper, Victor said, leaning back. Owes me $500,000. Skipped town before we could settle. My breath caught. $500,000. Where is he? I asked, my voice tight. Victor's smile was cold. You think I'd tell you? He's my problem, not yours. Lucas leaned in, his voice low. We can make it worth your while. Information for cash. Victor laughed. You Harpers are all the same, thinking money fixes everything. I don't know where he is, but I know he's scared. Mentioned a safe house in Tahoe. Tahoe. Another lead. We left the bar, my mind spinning. Lucas drove, his silence a comfort I didn't want to admit. You okay? He asked finally. No, I said, but I'm not stopping. The drive to Tahoe was long, the mountains rising like a challenge. We found the safe Housia rundown cabin tucked in the pines. It was empty, but James's presence lingered, a dog-eared book he loved. A photo of us on the fridge. My throat tightened as I traced his face in the picture. He was here, I said, my voice breaking. Lucas touched my shoulder, his hand steady. We'll find him, Ethan. I swear. That night, we stayed in the cabin. The silence between us charged. I couldn't sleep, haunted by James's absence and Lucas's presence. He sat by the fire, his face softened by the glow. You don't have to do this alone, he said. I looked at him, my heart torn. Why are you so kind to me? He hesitated, then spoke, his voice raw. Because I know what it's like to be left behind. I won't do that to you. His words cracked something open in me. I wanted to hate him, to keep him at arm's length. But his honesty pulled me closer. For the first time, I saw Lucas as more than James's twin. He was a man carrying his own pain, fighting for me in a way James never had. The Tahoe cabin felt like a dead end, but it held one final clue, a phone number scrawled on a napkin, tucked inside James's book. I called it, my heart racing, but it went to voicemail, a woman's voice. Unfamiliar. Lucas ran the number through his contacts, tracing it to a lawyer in Reno. We drove there the next morning, the weight of our search pressing heavier with each mile. The lawyer, a woman named Diane, was hesitant but confirmed James had been in touch. He hired me to negotiate with his creditors. She said, he's safe, but he's not ready to come back. Where is he? I demanded, my voice shaking. She shook her head. He didn't say, but he left this for you. She handed me an envelope, my name in James's handwriting. Inside was a letter, Ethan. I love you, but I couldn't drag you into this. The debt was my mistake, and I ran to protect you. I'll come back when it's safe. I'm sorry, James. I sank into a chair, the words blurring through tears. Lucas read over my shoulder, his hand resting lightly on my back. He's alive, he said softly. That's something. But it wasn't enough. I'd chased him across California, married his brother, lived a lie all for a letter that explained nothing. I need to see him, I said. I need to hear it from him. Diane sighed. He's moving constantly, but he mentioned a meeting in San Diego next week. If you're there, you might catch him. San Diego. One last chance. Lucas and I drove south. The journey quiet, but not empty. We'd become a team, bound by this impossible quest. At a rest stop, he opened up about his past, the lover he'd lost. A man named Ryan, who died in a car accident. James had blamed Lucas. Their rift deepening. I can't lose him too, Lucas said, his voice raw. I reached for his hand, a reflex I didn't question. You won't, I said. We'll find him. In San Diego, we staked out the meeting spot, a quiet cafe by the beach. My heart stopped when I saw him, James. Thinner. His eyes shadowed, but still his. He froze when he saw us, his gaze flickering between me and Lucas. Ethan, he said, his voice breaking. I didn't want this. Then why? I demanded, tears spilling. Why leave me? He explained the debt, the threats, the fear he'd ruin me. I thought running would keep you safe, he said. I didn't know they'd make you marry Lucas. Lucas stepped forward, his voice steady. You left us both, James. But we're here now. Let us help. James shook his head, his eyes haunted. It's not over. They're still after me. Then we face it together, I said, surprising myself. All of us. In that moment, I realized I'd changed. Chasing James had shown me my own strength, and Lucas had been my anchor. I loved James, but I respected Lucas's loyalty, his sacrifice. We returned to Napa as a fragile trio. The future uncertain, but shared. James promised to stay, to fight his demons with us. Lucas and I annulled our marriage, but the bond we'd forged remained. The vineyard stretched before us, no longer a trap, but a place of possibility. Love, I learned, wasn't just romance, it was showing up, even when it hurt. And as we stood together, three broken men under the California sky, I knew we'd find our way, not as a couple or a contract, but as something stronger, a family forged in truth.